This video is to help you prepare for the quiz on solving linear equations, sections 1.1 through 1.3 in our textbook. So this quiz covers everything from one-step equations, two-step equations, variables on both sides, parentheses, fractions, and our special solutions, no solution, and infinitely many. So I'm going to go through and do some of the problems, and then the video will stop and you guys will do the other ones and then check your answers with the Edpuzzle questions. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're doing is for numbers 1 through 4, these are one-step equations where you have one operation to do to get the variable by itself. So for number 1, we have x plus 9. So we're going to undo the addition of 9 by subtracting 9 from both sides. And when we do that, we get x by itself, because the plus sign and minus 9 will cancel, and then we have 7 minus 9, which is negative 2. So our answer is x equals negative 2. The other one that I want to do is number 4, the one with the fraction. We've been working with fractions for the last week, and so to undo the multiplication by the fraction, we are going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Let me rewrite the equation so I have a little more room to work here. So I am going to multiply both sides of this equation by the reciprocal, which is 4 over 3. So the 3's will cancel because I have a multiplication and division, and the 4's will cancel because I have a multiplication and division. So I'm left with P equals, and now I want to think of 18 as 18 over 1. So if I multiply across, I get 72 over 3, which gives me 24. So my answer is P equals 24. Now remember, you can check any of these by putting your answer back into the equation and then checking to see if both sides of the equation are equal. So now I want you guys on your own to try numbers 2 and number 3. Okay, next we are going to do two-step equations. So now we're going to have more than one operation that we have to do to get the variable by itself. So I am going to do numbers 5, 6, 7, and 10, and you guys can do the other two on your own. So to start out with, I am going to make sure that I isolate the variable by undoing the addition of 3. The subtraction of 3 by adding 3 to both sides. Those will cancel, so I have 2m equals 16. Dividing by 2, I get m equals 8. Okay, next. So for number 6, I'm going to start on the side that has the variable here. So I see that the 10, I have 10 minus v. Don't just say, okay, I have subtraction, I'm going to subtract 10. Add 10. What you want to do is you want to look at the sign of your 10, which is positive. So you have to do the opposite of a positive 10, which would be a negative 10. So when I do 5 minus 10, I get negative 5. Positive 10 and negative 10 give us 0, which is what we want. So here's where you want to be careful. This is negative v. So I'm going to put equals negative v. Okay, don't lose that negative sign. So now I have to undo the multiplication by a negative 1. So you can multiply by negative 1 or you can divide by negative 1. Both will give you the same result. Okay, and that gives me an answer of 5 equals v. And that's going to be my final answer, 5 equals v. Okay, So number 7, we have a different situation here. What we have here is we have 2 variable terms. So we have like terms that we have to put together first before we can isolate the variable. So we're going to have 5 equals 15w plus 2. So now we've turned this into a problem that we recognize very well. So we're going to undo the addition of 2 by subtracting 2. And then we're going to divide both sides by 15. Now be careful. You're not dividing by 3, you're dividing by 15. And I don't want you to think that just because you can't divide this evenly that we made a mistake. So you can simplify the fraction 3 over 15 and leave that as your answer. So that's going to give you 1 over 5 equals W. If you want to get a calculator and turn that into a decimal, you can do that as well. I would also accept the answer of 0.2. Both of those are correct for this problem. So this is the answer. I don't need both, just one or the other. Okay, so now I'm going to do number 10 because this one looks trickier than it has to be. Now what we've done so far is we've multiplied through everything by the denominator, and you can most certainly do that. But what I want to point out in this problem is the fact that the denominator 5 divides into 20 and 50 with no remainder. So I can just distribute that 1/5 without making extra work for myself. So I'm going to do that problem by distributing and not multiplying by the 5. But I will show you how you set that up after I finish this solution. So I keep the 68. I take 20 divided by 5 and I get 4x. Then I'll do 50 divided by 5 and I get 10. And then I still have the plus 2. Then I have my like terms to put together. So I have 68 equals 4x plus 12. And now I can finish this. So I am going to subtract 12 from both sides. So I get 56 equals 4x divided by 4. And I get x equals 14. So there's my answer. But let me go back and show you how you can set this up if you were going to undo the multiplication by a fraction. So I'll do that out here on the side. So let me start the problem over. So I have 68. That doesn't look like a 68. 68 equals 1/5 times 20x plus 50 plus 2. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply everything by this denominator, which is 5. So I'm going to do 68 times 5, and I get 340 equals, these will cancel, so I just have the parentheses, 20x plus 50, but I also have to multiply it times the 2, so plus 10. So now I have 340 equals 20x plus 60. So I'm going to subtract 60 from both sides. So I have 280 equals 20x divided by 20, and I get my 14 again. So both ways are correct, and you can decide which way you want to do this. So now I want you guys to go back and do numbers 8 and 9 on your own. Once you do that, that'll be the end of the video, and the second half of the review will be continued in video 2.